Good morning, everyone. Happy May Day. How have you guys been doing? I hope you've been enjoying the inside of your interior house quite frequently. So yeah, welcome. We're back here at Gen Con giving you all the latest on tabletop gaming and news. But before that, we got some things that you guys have been doing over this weekend. So, Derek, can you
Yes.
tell us if you had any bloody happenstance happening in your timeline of this week?
I mean, I feel like that's a really leading question to Derek. Show us your scars. But
Show us your emotional scars.
No, I'm excited because I finally got some old friends that I usually only get to see at conventions, which are not really happening right now, to play Vampire Online. And one of them is my wife, so I do see her regularly. But none of them have really played Vampire the Masquerade at all. So I'm very excited. We did character creation, which took longer than I expected because they would have a question and I would be like, well, let me give you a story. And I kept being like, are you sure you want me to keep telling you the story? And they're like, yep. So it was perfect time for story time with old vampire Uncle Derek.
That sounds fabulous.
And we ended up with a very amusing selection of characters because the friend of mine who always plays like the paladin, healer, like white mage, protective lady characters, they are playing like the total social ladder climbing, want power at all costs, run sex parties for profit kind of character. So they're rising to my challenge of giving them of not playing their normal kind of characters.
What is that? Clan senator?
Yeah. And then my wife was basically like, you know, Eris Morn from Destiny? I want to play that, but a Lasombra. And I was like, 2 thumbs up. I love both those things. Good job. And then the final player had actually read the book. And they were like, so I found this one particular note about this weird cult that I like. And I'm like, you guys are already going to be in a weird cult. They're like, yeah, but I want to be in this cult that's trying to infiltrate the other cult to bring it down from the inside because death to the vampire patriarchy. And I was like, 3 thumbs up for that.
Okay, cool.
So,
that sounds like a fun.
Yeah. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen with that.
Yeah. Anything else that you did this week in particular?
I attempted to make a chili. And I produced a stew that is good over rice.
Stew over rice. I don't know, Emma. You have some food stuff. Would you suggest adding your food into the chili of Derek's chili?
Yeah, it was funny because chili in particular is one thing. It's a recipe I've been working on for years in my slow cooker. Every time I make some tweaks to it, Derek had mentioned the cocoa. I haven't tried that yet, but I want to. So we're just bombarding Derek with suggestions for chili stuff. I say sweet potatoes. Derek hates sweet potatoes. But yeah,
sweet potatoes are gross.
My hot tip, my hot chili take.
You could add blood to thicken the chili. That also is
it is an actual ingredient. When Bonsai says it like that, you might think it's weird, but lots of people and lots of cultures actually cook with blood, and it's something that will also thicken a chili. For my personal news, there's a new how to play video released for Abandoned Artichokes. I have been very focused on that lately. I'm trying to disengage a little bit because it's hard not to obsessively check all this stuff. But Game Right made a new video in their cute animated vegetable style. So like with the trailer that I'd shared that was on Amazon, there's a video now where you see all the little cards dance around, and it's very helpful too. People are getting into the game who don't normally play deck builders, so this is a great way to kind of get a sense for how everything works together.
And you named your Animal Crossing island Artichoke, right?
Yes, Artichoke Island.
Because we were joking that you know there'd be some island in Animal Crossing you can go to and just dump all your artichokes out and abandon them there.
Yeah, I haven't come across any artichoke specific things yet, which is sad. I have made the flag of the island artichokes, and I'm working on a line of clothing that's all the vegetables from the game. I think I need to find a pixel art importer though, because it's a little tricky. I've been doing it just by hand in the
Can you
editor.
make jewelry in the game? Could you make, ready for this? Could you make an artichoker?
Oh no.
Well, that's all the time we have today for TableTakes.
Yeah,
I want to now. I want to. No, not boo. Yay. Yay. That's a yay.
That's going to be next week. You're going to come up. Oh, hey. Hi. How are you guys doing?
Oh, you ready? I got another one. You ready?
Oh, no.
Yes,
I know
ready.
they've
I'm
done
ready.
this in Animal Crossing. You could just set aside a room in your museum for an artichoke show.
Because it's art, like an art museum.
Yeah, see?
Yeah.
She gets it.
Yeah.
So, hey, Christian.
I got
Christian,
it.
how was your weekend? I heard you did something exciting with ZoeCon, right?
I had an exciting week overall. But yeah, last weekend was ZoeCon. We did our first convention virtually. That was fun because I've had fun at all of the ZoeCons that we've done in the past. I got married at one of them, the last one, in fact. This time, not so much. Everything was great. We ran some events. I got to do an online version of Gamers Live, which doesn't work nearly as well without an audience. They screened a bunch of movies. We did some script reading for a new Bansel script, and people just kind of came and hung out. And we broke Discord on the first day. It was very cool, but it definitely gave us a plan going forward of what we're going to be doing with some of these other major conventions that we're going to be, doing their conventions for them virtually.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, you had a lot of presence on Discord, but then you had your Twitch and Fantasy Network were showing stuff, but then you also had like breakout sessions where people could just go on Zoom calls and get a couple different calls running at once and stuff like that. So there was a lot of neat things going on there. And I think WorldCon is the next big project y'all are working on?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, this is like I'm very interested in the subject now that how things are currently in our current situation. You see more and more people, switching to these virtual conferences.
Yeah, the attendance. I mean, considering how little word we had out there, was fantastic. A lot of happy people this week who got to feel like they were out of their box a little bit. And then I, in addition to doing that, I kind of hooked up with some people who were at the con, and I'm now streaming a 4-person game of Divinity Original Sin 2.
Nice.
Where we turn off all the audio and voice act all of the characters.
Oh, sweet.
Do you have someone running it like an RPG? Because I think that's what Divinity supports. Or are you just playing through the campaign mode?
Playing through the campaign mode with all custom characters, and like we've given them all voices and personalities and very little clue. And what
channel is that on? When you plug it, man. What channel is that on?
What
time is it?
That is on a guy named Michael's channel, Dead Aussie Gamer.
Is that on Twitch or?
That is on Twitch. Yeah.
Okay.
Nice,
all right.
Nice.
Look for Dead Aussie Gamer.
What time do you do that at?
We do that on Thursdays. Usually right around 6 p.m. Because he's in Australia and he's just waking up, and then the other one player in Arizona and one player in Canada. So
extremely international.
And I don't know any of them. It's really fun.
Oh, I guess chat's demanding to make a clickable link so they can go insta follow it. So
yeah, we'll see if we can track it down.
Yeah.
Best of luck. Dead Aussie Gamer on Twitch.
All right. But yeah, no, that is really cool news. Me, I cooked for charity, and somehow I didn't burn myself. That's all.
Or cut yourself.
Or cut myself. But yes, you know what? Now that we have gotten through that, there is some really exciting news that if you guys have not been monitoring for the whole entire week. Derek, do you want to tell us? Because it is official now. It's been 30 minutes since we started this.
Ooh,
let me refresh.
Oh,
some of you may have heard about Frosthaven.
Oh, Frosthaven.
So Frosthaven
is
on this show.
So I think we talked about it last week. Frosthaven, the big compatible, sprawling, enormous sequel to Gloomhaven, just finished its Kickstarter. With anybody want to guess what the final total is without looking it up?
$10.
That is incorrect.
I'm going to say 11.
$1 billion.
Price is Right rules.
Well, by Price is Right rules, Christian wins.
Dang it.
Because he's the closest without going over by $1. It is $13 million effectively, which is ridiculous money. $13 million.
Kickstarter.
But I think the really interesting thing is that makes them the #1 funded games project. It also makes them the #3 funded project ever on Kickstarter,
which is crazy.
Mm-hmm. They were really close to beating out the Coolest Cooler. It is probably worth noting that the current #1, #2, and #4 projects that they just beat, I believe, are all tech projects that did not actually
deliver
work.
Oh,
they were the 2 Pebbles, and I think Pebble has been bought and shut down or whatever at this point. And then there was the Coolest Cooler, which I don't believe ever panned out.
Isn't that the one with like the radio and the cooler and stuff? And
was it like a regular cooler that just didn't give a crap?
Yeah, mm-hmm.
Too cool.
Too cool to even work cooler. But I suppose that means that like #1 and #2, if we take out projects that maybe did not really pan out, the top is still dominated by 2 really big games: Kingdom Death, which previously had the record for biggest game, and now Frosthaven. It's almost like people like playing games.
Yeah, well, and also, like you said, board game projects, not all the time, but a lot of times deliver as expected or even above expected. Like Kingdom Death has had great reception. Gloomhaven has continued to sell and have great reception. So I think that board game designers are just better at Kickstarter.
Well, they all, we'll just say they have the access to it. And plus,
I think that's because their entire industry is built on Kickstarter right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to be fair, like with a lot of these tech projects, it's just like the world's thinnest watch that never delivered. I'm still sad and salty about that. But there are some just innovation things. They're saying that they can make this thing, they just can't get there for the price point. I guess maybe a little tougher than a more proven thing like board games.
Okay. Well,
but
we'll just have
big news.
Yeah, big news. Basically, just watching all the people throw money at it, just like. Speaking on a different subject, not necessarily throwing money, but you guys remember how we were talking about Z-Man got independence from Asmodee Games and started doing their own thing? Well, Z-Man just released basically their language, like English rights or language rights back to Yes, for the essentially the original owners. They're going to be re-releasing a lot of their games that they didn't have before back to the US. So you're going to just like look it up. Feast of Odin, Fields of Arthur, and Lowlands will be coming and distributing back within the US just with a bunch of different expansions and games. Yeah. So that's something to look forward to. So if you're interested in Z-Man games, Emma, you got some very system shaking news going on, right?
Break the system, burn it down so we can build it better. Yeah. So this is Magic related news. I saw this and very surprising. Definitely took me by surprise. Planeswalker Points are going away. If you've never played Magic, or even if you're just not super into it, that might not mean anything to you. What might mean more to you is the fact that DCI numbers are going away. So on May 27th, 2020, WotC is going to be sunsetting Planeswalker Points, removing access to the Planeswalker Points website. So what this has been, if you've never done an FNM or any sort of organized play for Magic, you might not have seen this, but if you have done those things, you will have gotten a DCI number. So anyone who's played an FNM, pretty much any tournament or event for Magic, as well as a lot of the ones for Dungeons and Dragons, the organized play, there you'll be issued a number. And that number has been a way for you to track your progress across games. Within the last few years, you've been able to plug that number into a website where you could actually go. It's pretty cool because they've tracked that data. So the first time you log in, you're like, oh, there's that FNM I did 4 years ago, and that's how I performed on it. So it's kind of cool to be able to see your progress. And it's, it's a little bit sad that this is going away. And as they wrote in the article, for many players, it's going to feel like the end of an era because many people have had, there's 2 camps. I'm going to say that right off the bat. Many people have had their DCI number and their little card that they've cherished for years and years. Then there's the Derek camp where who couldn't be bothered and just every time does a new event, just gets, you're not alone. There's a sizable contingent of people who are like, I don't know what my DCI number is. And they just hand them out like candy.
But you make it sound like they're bad people just the way you say it.
No, I didn't say it that way.
I wonder
the bad camp across the lake.
But I wonder if that's related to how casual D&D fans interacted with the DCI system versus, even relatively casual Magic fans. Because I do have a feeling that being able to check your tournament performance and kind of see over the years and like know that you've played an X number of tournaments and stuff like that, that is kind of pretty cool as a Magic player. But maybe it's because I was never really shown the benefits when I was playing D&D. For me, it was very much like I would go to a convention or friends would want to play an organized play adventure at home or something like that. And the DCI numbers for the D&D side of things, to me as a casual player, always felt like it was just more a case of reporting for Wizards. Like we were doing Wizards a favor by telling them we were playing. We didn't really super care whether we used the same number or not because there wasn't a ton of benefit for us.
Yeah.
I'm sure that like maybe if I'd been much more into like the folks I know who were way into Living City or some of the Living Greyhawk, a lot of the older organized play campaigns, like they all knew their DCI numbers by heart. Like, like I get it for those folks, but
I think
for
they
the more
had shorter
casual
numbers
folks,
back then too.
There's that too. There was definitely some people who are like, my DCI number is only 5 digits, and I'm like, mine has digits. I don't even know how many or what they are, buddy.
There is a number of digits.
I don't care.
My 16 DCI numbers. But you make a really good point there, and that's part of the reason that it is going away because it always has been this system. Running events for Mox Boarding House, I would have people come up and they'd say, you need a DCI number. And there was some frustration there because people really didn't care about them and they weren't used that much. Really, the best thing that could happen was that you'd go to your local game store enough time that they would just know who you were and they'd just be able to plug you in. Like it's never something that you really wanted to keep track of. So there is going to be a replacement. So it's not just going away. What's happening now is they're still going to use identifiers, but it's going to be your Wizards account. So if you've played Arena, you have a Wizards account. I think if you've played Magic Online, you have an account. It's been a while since I played. I think it's the same one. It's all tied together.
I'm sorry. I had a question. Did accruing these points get you anything? Like, was it like collecting Camel Cash where you could eventually buy like a Magic pool stick or something?
Well, for the Planeswalker points in particular, there was a system for if you did enough tournaments, you would earn points that would let you get into other events. So part of this tracking for high level play was for people to be able to track their stats in a meaningful way if they wanted to play competitively at the highest levels.
Okay. I wasn't sure.
Yeah. So that's a great question. And so what's going to be happening now is you're going to have your login, which in a lot of ways is better because you have your email address, right? And you have your number. So in Arena, like my account is Emma Larkins, and then I have a bunch of numbers that are after it. So you have that number, potentially a little easier to remember, or you can always just log into your account and see what your number is. So they are replacing that and consolidating too, because they're making a new app for in-store play, which is going to be really great. I know some people either don't have mobile phones, don't have easy access to the internet, so it can be tricky for those people. But for a lot of people, me included, just being able to have an app to like see what my pairings are instead of having to like go up and look at the sheets or just report my stats too, instead of having to have that little piece of paper and the event organizers having to chop up all those little pieces of paper before every event. There's a lot of things that will be a lot more streamlined with this new system, and definitely looking forward to that. And even just crazy blue sky thinking of connecting my Arena stats to my in-game store stats and having like crazy interactions there and being able to feed more and support more my local game store. I think there's a lot of really cool stuff that's going to come out of this. Yeah. Some people I'm sure are sad about the transition, but I think that on the whole, it's going to be better for the game.
Yeah. And it honestly, to me, sounds like a cleaner, streamlined system.
Yeah.
It's,
Well, so to the topic of accessibility, Emma, didn't I'm thinking back to, because Wizards has like their premier store program and stuff like that. You have to do certain things to be part of that program. I think I remember that one of their requirements was having a computer that the public could access when they need to. And I wonder if that might be something they expect people to use to overcome my phone's dead, I don't remember my number, or whatever else. The store might have tools to allow people to look up their information before they play.
Yeah, yeah, that's. I mean, for Mox, we always had computers that only hooked into the Card Kingdom website. Making a computer and internet access accessible to the general public, like you need some heavy IT support for that, because you can get into all sorts of weird territory.
You want Skynet? Because that's how you get Skynet.
It might. I mean, they may just have a tool that allows like the register to look somebody up too, though.
Yeah, or having an app, like just having. You can do that with some IT skills, enabling them to just log into the app and check it out. I think with the right support, they are considering the infrastructure of this, and I think that that's important.
Well, those are definitely exciting news about transferring over. Oh yeah, Christian, you said since we're all transferring over into this digital age and Skynet, what else is also going digital?
That was really just to kind of soften the blow for some slightly worse news.
Oh
no, I'm you know, tis the season, you know, it's, you know, COVID Christmas. So PaizoCon, which was originally scheduled for the end of this month in Seattle, is now going to be a completely online convention. Paizo is, of course, the producer of Pathfinder, and they're a big, you know, local game company for us here in the Seattle area. So I usually attend. I'm not going this year, obviously, and but they're going to be
the only person there for it.
Yeah, I might be. You never know. It was going to be more Memorial Day weekend, but now they've decided to expand it to a 6-day event for social distancing purposes that goes from May 26th to the 31st. But it's going to have everything you're going to find at a regular convention: seminars, panels, live plays, you know, special sessions that you know just join into, stuff that they're going to be doing on Roll20 and Fantasy Grounds. It looks like it's going to be. Looks like they've got it, you know, pretty well scouted out. It's going to be a pretty good event. You don't get to leave the house. You might as well stop by and see what they got going on.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's it for the bad news.
Yes, bad news over with. But
is that it for the bad news?
Oh wait,
I thought it was for. It's not. ReaperCon, which the Reaper Miniatures company, they put on their convention every year as well. They've also canceled their convention, but they've also announced another live online convention planned for Labor Day weekend, September 3rd through the 6th. They're promising swag and VIP bags, and like, I don't know how they're going to do that, but I think it's great. That'll get me to show up at least, especially since I don't have to leave the house to do it. And I've gained a grudging respect and love for miniatures over the last year or so since I've started hanging out with you guys. So
yeah,
Derek smiles.
Bad influences on each other. All right.
Yeah.
I spend more money now, so thank you.
5
holes in our pockets. Yeah, deeper in debt. Yeah. No. But no, that's very exciting that all these are going into digital formats, and it's just kind of exciting to see if maybe like more opportunities, especially if like, you know, like more people actually end up doing digital cons that maybe couldn't do a convention before.
Yeah,
you know.
That's what I was going to bring up. Is I'm excited that I really hope that this year helps us all adapt to doing things online, and that we continue to do things online even when we don't have to anymore, so that we can still accept folks who otherwise would not have been able to attend, either because they don't have the money, or they you know, can't handle the crowds, or they can't travel, or they have health issues, or whatever else. Like those folks, you know, deserve to get a convention experience. So I really hope that we can kind of polish this up and continue doing it indefinitely, so that those folks still have a chance to participate.
To be able to expand a regular fan convention to have an online presence the way that we're starting to do them now, that would be such a game changer, honestly. Because, before I started, working in the industry professionally, I could never afford to attend a convention. Believe it or not, don't let my rich surroundings fool you, but we were a little bit on the lower end of the income spectrum. And I probably never would have gone had, I not been lucky enough to be in a D&D movie. Now I go every year, and that's great. But I still, every time I go, I think about all the people who just can't get the travel, the childcare, and everything it takes to attend one of these conventions for the entirety of it. And this is, I don't know, it's just such a cool opportunity for everybody.
It's also just real
you can go now, and that's great.
Yeah, it's also just overwhelming and intimidating for a lot of people. So I think there's going to be some people who
just seeing a lot of the live events that Gen Con did last year and being able to see those streamed, that I mean, I got to, instead of telling people about what I was doing, they could actually just go and watch.
Yeah.
And yeah, sure, it makes you want to attend the convention that much more, but it gave a presence to that the viewer being able to be an attendee, and I don't know, I just like the idea of it.
And in the past, a lot of times there's been movements during big conventions like the Can't conventions, right, where separate organizers have built up their own things around it. But I love the idea of being able to integrate that a little bit more, and for the conventions to do some support more of that broader audience. For my game design playtesting nights that I've been running, people are just so grateful. It touches my heart to see them say yeah, I'm in Georgia, I don't have a local group I can go to, I've never been able to do this before. So it's just really impactful to be seeing the broadening of accessibility for these things.
Yeah, using this to create opportunities instead of treating them as a feature instead of a bug. Instead of we have to do a convention online instead of in person, it's now we have the ability.
So you can do either or.
And I just like the way it's being approached, and I hope it continues in that fashion. But I'm also an optimist.
We'll all have to wait and see how it goes in this timeline. Speaking of stars to the distance, Emma, you got some things about Star Realms.
Star Realms is getting a legacy style standalone prequel. That's a mouthful. So Star Realms, a hit deck builder game from the recent past. It's been around for a few years now. It's after, the original Dominion was the first big deck builder that came out. There was a few others that came after that. Star Realms is a very notable example of that.
I think Star Realms is it's still the biggest sci-fi deck builder that
exactly.
There are very few that are kind of hit that theme.
Yeah, the fact that Star Realms is set in a science fiction universe as opposed to a fantasy universe is definitely something that's always set it apart. White Wizard Games is also a very big supporter of this universe that they're building up around their games. So it's cool to see that they're doing a prequel here and trying legacy style with deck building, which would be very interesting to see how that pans out. So it includes a campaign legacy style experience, which I'm guessing from the way that they phrased that is less about destroying the components and tearing things up and more about just building up over a course of different plays. You're gonna have different scenarios that you play through. So there's going to be the legacy style rules, and other than that, it's going to have a lot of the core mechanics of Star Realms. And you're going to play through a series of battles that tell the story of the creation of the Star Empire. So that's kind of the flavor that you're going through with this campaign.
I'm really curious about it because when they say legacy style, they didn't say anything about destroying stuff, but I think they did specifically mention stickers. That really reminds me, I don't know if anybody played it, but Netrunner had an expansion a deluxe expansion that's name escapes me right now, but it was basically a legacy expansion. It had a storyline. You'd unlock stories, you would unlock access to cards, you would put stickers on a character sheet and on cards and stuff like that. And it was hands down the best interaction that I've had with Netrunner. It was really, really amazing.
Yeah.
And it was probably the best execution I've seen of storytelling in a card game. So it wasn't just like, like Magic to me feels like here's an expansion, here's the story of the expansion, and here are the cards. And individual cards will reflect the story, but I never felt like the playing of the game reflected the story. And that expansion for Netrunner married the two. So I felt like I was playing through the story. So it would be really, really intriguing to see if this Star Realms expansion is learning some of those lessons from Netrunner.
Yeah, yeah. Adding the stickers to the card, changing the mechanics is all super cool. Making a richer experience. White Wizard has also had success through digital apps. So part of the success of their deck building games is the fact that you can play digitally. Like that, hands down, I think is just a great way to support this kind of a game that really needs a 2-player game, that needs a community built up around it. You can just jam a bunch of games on your mobile device. It's a great way just to get more experience with the games, feel more comfortable with it. It all feeds back into the physical version. So if you're feeling a Star Realms itch, then you can check out their existing online digital apps as you wait for this upcoming prequel.
Ooh. Well, it is fun. More things we're noting. Digital is the way we're going. Well, let's go ahead and don't forget that there's also physical copies. And, it's nice. Digital is nice, but sometimes you got to go back to physical interactions. Physical. We're going to go. Derek, tell us about the physicals.
Well, do you like Warhammer?
Yeah.
I hope so, because that's what I'm talking about. So I can only make that last so long. Sorry. Or I apologize for doing it at all.
No, you did
take
great.
Which one you like.
My heart is happy.
Olivia Newton-John is turning over on her plastic surgery. Games Workshop is slowly reopening stores in certain locations. We haven't really talked about this yet on the show because the locations that are opening are not in the US and they're not shipping to the US. So we felt it probably wasn't relevant to most people who were watching. But as they're opening back up, they've announced a couple promotions and plans and stuff like that. And one of the things that's really intriguing is we're all used to Games Workshop having exclusive minis that are available only through the website, or that you have to go to the Games Workshop branded store to pick up.
Yeah.
And they have announced that they're going to have an exclusive mini that is only for the independent stores that are not Games Workshop branded, and only they will get it. So you'll have to go to another store if you're usually a Games Workshop aficionado. Or if you've been buying your Warhammer stuff from your local store like I do, you'll be able to get it through them. And it's really neat because it's like the third, I think, Katachan, Space Army figure guide that they've had. So it's not for a faction that I actually play, but like I have to respect and love this mini because all the Katachan minis are cool because they're out of Alien. Like they're that style of Space Marine basically. And this one in particular, the sergeant from Alien, the sergeant who inspired the sergeant in Halo, like this is him. It's the black guy who is just pointing out at something and has charge of the battlefield. That is this miniature. So if you love that kind of archetype of character, you're going to want to pick this one up.
Very, very cool news. That would be great for people who do have access in the international district where the stores are open at. But now, you know what? Let's not talk about buying things. Let's talk about
getting
things for free.
Free.
Christian, you want to kick it off?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about some free stuff. In this time of crisis, we are already spending too much on things like toilet paper. Why not get some games for free? And here's a couple ways you can do that today. Monty Cook Games is offering an abbreviated, super streamlined cipher system, basically a little set that has fast character creation and the ability to jump right in. And guess what? They're charging $0.00 for it. And it's Monty Cook Games, and it's cipher system. So you got a good game designer with a good game that you can pick up and play today for no monies. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Unless you knew about it before now, in which case, I'm sorry that I was so late on the uptake there.
Yes. Emma, you got some magical news about free stuff as well?
I do have magical free stuff news. Free stuff, Hogwarts Battle. So Dicebreaker has reported that you can play Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle as a lone wizard with free solo rules. So this isn't the actual game itself. You will have to have a copy of the game in order to be able to play. But if you do have Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle, you can now play it solo, which is very exciting news for people who are stuck at home alone, and also for people who are solo gamers. More support for solo gaming. I think, again, looking on the positive side, another great thing that's coming out of this is more focus being put on games that you can play alone by yourself, or games you can play online with people aren't physical, local to your space. If you don't know about Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle, another deck builder, very about deck builders today. This is a cooperative deck builder that was a little simpler gameplay, focused a little bit more to families and kids, meant to be very easy to get into, but also fun for some of the higher levels of gameplay for people who, many adults like myself, still love Harry Potter. So it's a game not too complex to get into, but some interesting cooperative play. What's cool about this is it does launch you right into the 7th year. So the Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle deck builder game, you work through the years, the 7 years of the Harry Potter career. And this one will just launch you right in. You're going to be fighting as Voldemort. Voldemort's going to get a random
You'll be
protector.
fighting as Voldemort?
That's what like you said, right?
Wait.
What?
We get to be evil.
No, we're not evil.
Let's beat up all the high schoolers.
No, we're going to beat up Voldemort.
To take his place and be the Dark Lord ourselves, right?
Yes.
I feel attacked here. Christian, you used to be on the light side with me, right? It was dark side, light side. Now I'm the
I'm on the light side.
Unfortunately, you get Derek on the light side, and he leads.
Oh, no, it's Derek on the light side. That's right. Yeah. Right. It's fine.
I'm just an optimist who happens to be dark side.
I'll be on the light side by myself. You're going to defeat Voldemort, but first you're going to defeat all of the Death Eaters, stop them, take over, defeat all of the villains before the Death Eaters take control of any locations.
Best of luck.
So I think it's fascinating that they're able to use the existing components of the game with some new rules, come up with a solo version. Just goes to show that a lot of games with some tweaking can have a solo version, and I think that's a really cool way to support the audience for this game.
That's what intrigues me, definitely, is I love that they're just releasing some rules for free to use with the game you already have.
Yeah.
And I hope that maybe they'll test it, it'll go well, and then they'll release it as a physical thing that people can pick up and just drop into their box.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely. Oh, Christian, you have one more free goodie to give out to people. Can you tell us about it?
Well, unfortunately, I'm not the one giving it away, but I'm happy to tell you about it. The beginner-friendly RPG Quest's first official setting, The Reach, is now a free game. You can pick it up, and it's very, very simple. Fast character creation, a very, very simple D20 system if you're only used to D&D, or for that matter, nothing at all. This is very quick rules-wise to pick up, and all the resources are right there to grab onto and use for your RPG Quest adventure.
It's noteworthy because Dicebreaker, I think, had a review of it a while ago, and they were really, really impressed. They were very impressed. So it seems like it's worth checking out if you want to see something new.
A test, but it's a free RPG.
Yeah.
If you got a good imagination, it'll be a good enough game for you. You're fine. It's free.
Just get that free stuff.
Get your
free stuff.
Oh, speaking of which, did you guys know something just happened? We just got through all the main topics, and now it is time
in record time
for close enough. But now it is time for Bundle Boss.
Hey, the Bundle Boss. That's me, and I got my little theme song bump and everything. I love that. I love it so much. This week, the bundle of holding has the Cthulhu Confidential. It is based on the Gumshoe system. It's basically a one-on-one RPG where you get to, explore madness, I guess. Isn't that what Cthulhu's about?
Yeah, sure. Close enough.
Yeah, there's usually some elder god or something behind all that stuff, but really it just comes down to you solve the mystery, but you go crazy or die. The end.
Or both.
There's no joy. That's what essentially it is. No joy, only pain.
The thing is, there's plenty of joy in these kinds of games. As bleak as they sound when you say them out loud, actually playing them is a boatload of fun. And this is a way that you can do that with just one other person. Why is that a good thing? Well, if you're not an experienced role player, you won't know. But if you are, you know how difficult it is to get a group together, even for an online game in a time where you know everybody is stuck in their house. So, this way you only have to rely on that one unreliable person. It'll be great. So there you go. The bundle of holding, obviously, it's going to be supporting a good cause. And for around $27, you can get the bonus collection, which is going to give you all the rule book, two-person... for the two-person Knights Black Agent game, an investigation for that, and 3 more investigations for Cthulhu Confidential. And it benefits Cochrane Reports, which maintains a COVID-19 resource page for policy developers that describes up-to-date clinical best practices in multiple languages, in case you don't want to read it in just one.
Yeah. So, I think it's also it's noteworthy that I think these one-on-one games also work very, very well online, because then, you don't have to worry anywhere near as much about talking over each other. You can focus much more easily. You could do it over FaceTime or, any other. There's a million one-to-one video chat programs out there.
And I've always loved playing one-on-one RPGs. It's a lot of fun. I mean, obviously I enjoy it usually more with a group, but if you got a good GM and a good player and you're both focusing on telling that story, it can be a heck of a lot of fun. And this is a good way to get into that if you haven't tried it out before.
If you've never done it before, Matt Colville, who has done a number of YouTube videos on how to play D&D and how to run D&D, just did a video on how to do a one-on-one.
Like a week ago at the most?
Like a couple days ago, I think. So,
really
incredibly serendipitous. And then just the final thing is, so it's Cthulhu Confidential is the bundle, and that's the base level. But Knights Black Agents, just to let people know, is a different game, but this is the solo rules for that too. And Knights Black Agents is basically Jason Bourne meets vampires, where you are a spy or a former spy who found out that vampires run a conspiracy that screws up the world, and you are now trying to figure out how to fight against them.
So you're the spy.
And the thing that everyone should really just understand is that there's a big section of the book called the Vampiramid, which allows you to structure your vampire conspiracy. So
Wait,
come on, it's gold.
Wasn't that a movie with Ryan Reynolds?
We had conspiracy. But yes, no. All I remember from that game is the best way to kill vampires is strapping bombs to the front of the car and ramming into the vampires.
Sounds like a good plan.
Sounds effective.
No. You duct tape them to a roof with a tape player that has a timer on it that starts playing "Here Comes the Sun" as soon as the sun starts coming up.
That just seems kind of cruel.
Yeah, LARPs are
vampires.
They're vampires.
I thought you liked vampires, or you like murdering them.
A whole part of one of the key elements of playing vampire is learning to come up with cruel things to do to your enemies.
Be a vampire.
There are so many things.
But yes, that was our humble bundles from Bundle Boss. Now it is time to talk to the Kickstarter queen.
Well, Kickstarter blessings be upon you in this world of plenty where Frosthaven leads the way. But Christian, I believe you have the first Kickstarter project that you are going to tell us about.
Yeah, but it's not anything I'm going to spend a whole lot of time on. This is the BLACKLIST Miniatures Fantasy Series 1 with 4 days left. What this is essentially is some 28 millimeter scale miniatures, which are about the size that you want for any tabletop game, and a whole bunch of them for not very much money. As you can see up on the screen now, we've got everything. Look at these beautiful sculpts, and there's something like 60 some figures you get, or it's just insane. Let me take a look right here. I think their biggest offer is you just get like 178 minis for $65. There you
That's
go.
a lot.
That's a lot of monies.
Fill your house with minis for just a few $1,000s.
You're looking to find something to occupy your time? Well, there you go.
Yeah.
I mean, this basically seems like if you are jonesing for the next Bones Kickstarter, this is right up your alley.
This will get you through, but I like a lot of these sculpts a bit better than I like some of the Bones ones. I'm not gonna lie, and I'm a fan of their work. Don't get me wrong. I just like these look good. They're clean. Yeah, I like them.
Yep.
It's a buy.
Bye.
Christian approved.
Bye. Sell.
Then also, can we just talk about the dragon? The dragon looks cool.
Dargan.
For a little PVC mini, that's a badass looking dragon.
Well, speaking of minis and speaking of vampires, as we always do, the next project is the latest installment in our continuing series, Aren't Blood Bowl Teams Hilarious? Because this is a project that gives you 3 different Blood Bowl teams. There's some mummies. Cool. That's cool. We like mummies that play football. There's some crypt creatures. That's cool. Like crypt, ghouls playing football. That's cool.
That's
and then
fine.
there's the vampire pirates, or as Lee likes to call them, vampirates. Football. So
he was waiting all show for that.
Yeah, I was. I've been waiting my whole life for this moment.
Yeah.
So if you ever wanted to play vampire buccaneers who are murder football aficionados,
that was literally my D&D character when I was 15.
You see, now I would totally want to run a D&D campaign that's just a squad of vampire football player hooligans running around a D&D world messing shit up.
Yes,
baby, I
want to go to there.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So this is another I feel at this point I just have to go play Blood Bowl because I find the teams so hilarious. How do you say no to vampire pirate football players?
Are you sure this is just not an excuse to get a bunch of group minis of
there's also that too, yes. But if you sell me a package deal of a team full of minis that are both awesome and dumb as hell at the same time, it is difficult for me to resist.
That is the perfect intersection.
So that has 5 days left.
Both cute and ugly at the same time.
Yeah.
Ugly.
5 days left. Wednesday, May 6th. Yeah, come on.
All right.
I also love totally not Pirates of the Caribbean knockoff character. There's a couple of those in there.
Well, I think 2 of them are being carried away by vampire bats, and they're just normal people who are like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, because it's great.
It's great.
There's a lot of character in there.
Yeah, just go check it out.
Sparkles.
But also, with 6 days left, Thursday, May 7th, AUSONIA is a deck building card game. If you're into deck builders and want to go ahead and be a person who's trying to gain power in the shadows of Venice by using magic to win them more stuff, this is probably the game you want to go ahead and play.
Exactly what you were looking for. This is your game.
This is your game. The artwork, what drawn me the most was the artwork to this particular card game. And also they have a very interesting resource mechanic. Basically a lot of times you have to discard your past resources once you use them to upgrade. But this one actually integrates past cards that still help build up your new cards. So you don't necessarily be that's just throwing away. It's a way to try a mechanism that tries to use your weakest card and unwanted cards to your most advantage. So if you guys want to go ahead and try seeing, checking this out as AUSONIA, with 6 days left, Thursday, May 7th.
Great, Emma. What about you?
Up next,
Emma,
we have Tales from the Loop. But Tales from the Loop already exists, you say.
Yeah,
this is
an RPG and a television show.
Now it's a board game.
Oh,
I know, right? Brain exploding. On Kickstarter with 6 days left, ending Thursday, May 7th, we have Tales from the Loop, the board game. So first off, you might not have heard about Tales from the Loop, so we'll talk about that just a little bit. It's another one of these games that came out before the Stranger Things D&D supplement came out, and all of them were like, this is Stranger Things, the role-playing game, but also kind of different. What's really cool about this one is it has that kind of Nordic vibe to it, and with this one in particular, you know, this is kids in the 80s-ish having to deal with their mundane lives, and then also with supernatural crazy stuff going on. But this Tales from the Loop really leaned into, hey, really weird stuff is already happening. So you have almost that Scythe vibe with the giant robot mech creatures in the fields next to the kid just riding their bike. So really interesting
artwork.
As the Tales from the Loop.
Yeah, I mean, because wasn't Tales from the Loop based on the artwork initially?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. There was an art book called Tales from the Loop, and then Things from the Flood.
Yeah.
Right.
That was a Scandinavian. Like, I think the interview snippet I saw was that he basically said that he wanted to paint landscapes and he wanted to paint robots.
Yeah.
He didn't have time to do both, so he was like, "Fine, I'll just put robots in my landscapes."
Yeah, this is the perfect explanation. This is Simon Stålenhag's stunning retro sci-fi worlds, as it was described here. I think is a great way to put it. So for this board game in particular, you're going to have your characters. You have standees for the characters and some sweet minis, not a ton of minis, but a few very choice minis for the robots and the mechs. Your character is going to start your day at school and deal with all your homework and normal school kid day life during the day. And
that's what excited me about the project. I saw that, and I was like, having to do your homework before you get to go on your adventure each day is just too cute for me not to love.
Yeah, Derek just really wants to go and do his homework. And then, of course, you have to do dinner. Like, you can't miss dinner. But between school and going to dinner, there's this stretch of time where you'll be able to do all your crazy sci-fi weirdness stuff. Another cool thing about this is that the actions are integrated because it is a cooperative game. So instead of kind of like, oh, I do my turn and then I got to plan and like think about all the stuff I'm doing, the game is intended to not have a lot of downtime waiting for other players. So you're going to be cooperating and kind of, it sounds like there's a back and forth dynamic to it, which seems really cool and fun. And for a cooperative game, nice to have that so you don't get kind of bogged down in kind of just waiting for other people to do their stuff.
Well, you can't have the downtime. You know, you got to be home by dinner.
Right, I know, right? You got to just like grind through these scenarios. There's 4 different scenarios that are included, each one playing 90 to 150 minutes. I haven't had a chance to play the RPG myself. I believe, Derek, you've run the system. It's a pretty fun system.
Yeah, I ran it for the kids, and it basically it's the same system as Alien or Mutant Year Zero, just not stressful. Is kind of what it boils down to. And shockingly enough, and I was very amused that the board game looks like it uses a very similar die mechanic. You are still rolling a bunch of D6s, and you're looking for 6s, and that's really as simple as it gets. And this might be the fact that I'm a role player and it's hard for me not to look at everything like a tool to help RPGs. But I really got a feeling that there was a lot of rumor decks and there was like the plot lines and there was things developing. So it kind of reminds me in a very light way of how I always wanted to use the Arkham Horror board game, which was to use the Arkham Horror board game to run the larger campaign world and to inspire what characters might do in it, but to have the world changing all around them. So I kind of suspect you might be able to mine a lot of ideas for the RPG out of this board game as well.
Nice. So that's Tales from the Loop, the board game, 6 days left, ending Thursday, May 7th.
All right. Derek.
So the next project with 6 days left, also on Thursday, May 7th, this is another project from Queen Games, which we have highlighted a number of their Kickstarters, I think, over the years. They tend to have these kind of classic modern board games that they then do a Kickstarter for the deluxe upgrade version, like the big box that will fit all the expansions and have upgraded components and stuff like that. And I've played Shogun. I haven't played Wallenstein, but they appear to be very, very similar. Shogun.
Those are 2 different games, though.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
Okay. When I saw the headline, I saw Shogun and Wallenstein, and I'm like, that sounds like a law firm created by a supervillain.
So I haven't played Wallenstein, but it looks like it takes the same idea that Shogun has and just applies it to a Western setting. And there's probably some other rules tweaks as well, but it's a territory control game. You know, you put your cubes on the territories to control the territories, but the mechanics where you resolve conflicts is this really fun thing where you take the cubes involved and pour them into a dice tower, basically, and you see what cubes come out. So this project, you know, upgrades the cubes for meeples. It upgrades the building tokens for 3D buildings. It upgrades the tower to a larger tower that's plastic, it looks like, to accommodate the meeples and all that kind of stuff. And then there's a big box to hold it all. So it's very much like if you like territory control games and you want maybe a little more tactical element of pouring your meeples and see who survives the fall, then Shogun's a really neat game, and it seems like that kind of a neat way to get a deluxe version of it.
Mm-hmm. Cool. All right, folks. You ever wanted to be a dwarven king and dig a hole? Well, I got the game for you. Kingless, with 7 days left, Friday, May 8th, is a fast-paced, easy-to-learn card game designed to basically have fun with. It's 1 to 5 people, 1 to 5 player, or 1 to 6, sorry, 1 to 6 players, where you're trying to win the highest influences in this dwarven kingdom to become the new king. With, of course, you get to sabotage each other and bribe people with magical items and tasks, as many dwarves do. So the rules are very simple, very easy. If you're a fan of games like Munchkin or Flux, this is probably a game you would just really want to pick up because it's fun. The cards are colorful and the artwork is fun. And it's supposed to be a lighthearted, we are dwarves and we're digging a hole, diggy hole kind of thing. So
this is definitely the musical episode.
Yes, very, very. And it comes with that song, totally. No, it doesn't.
Do I get to have a beard?
You do get to have a beard. The marvelous.
My dream comes true.
Who are not naturally pogophobic.
But yes. So, Kingless, 7 days left, May 8th, Friday. Christian.
What? What'd I do?
You got murdered.
By mail!
That was good. That was really good.
Which is not surprising considering most murders are committed by mails.
It's true.
Oh, but this is a different kind of mail. This is the kind you get delivered. This is your post, baby. All right, Murder by Mail presents The Fellowship of Bones, a Sherlock Holmes mystery. This is kind of one of those things where they send you a box containing your case file and a description of the crime. They give you who your investigators are. And then you play pretty much whenever you want and send stuff in and get stuff back. And it can take weeks and weeks, but you can do it as fast or as slow as you want, depending on your postal service. But it had Sherlock Holmes in it, so I was very interested. And it looks pretty fun. I might give it a try if I get really bored and stop playing other games forever.
All right. How many days left is that?
Only 9.
Okay.
That's a lot.
What about you, Emma?
Yeah.
Up next, we have Brancalonia, the spaghetti fantasy RPG. 9 days left, ending Sunday, May 10th. This is an all-Italian, medieval, roguish, and picaresque setting for 5th edition of the most famous role-playing game of all time, which we all know what that is.
When you say all-Italian, you don't mean all in Italian. You mean designed by Italians.
Yeah, designed by Italians, having a very Italian feel to it. Probably be released in Italian, would be my guess.
I'm sure there'll be an Italian edition, but you don't have to learn Italian to play it.
Exactly. That is a very important qualifier. You don't need to be Italian or read Italian to play this game. What really drew me to this is that we tend to think of fantasy and historical fantasy, lump it into this medieval high fantasy that's usually really based on a lot of UK English themes. So to have another subculture represented within here, I think is very cool. And a lot of it's just got, for playing your D&D games, just kind of this vibe of a band of knaves. We're enlisting in free company. We're going to get some jobs, make some money, drink some wine. I think there's a picture on there of someone just chugging out of a wine bottle.
Yeah, and it's it's generally a very popular subgenre of fantasy. You get a lot of things that are kind of have that feel to it.
Yeah. Just kind of this roguish, decadent vibe, just like very colorful.
Creed 2, all of that take place in Venice. It has that kind of vibe to it.
Yeah.
Maybe some other things as well.
Yeah. It just feels super fun, like playing. For me, the campaign that I'm playing through, it's got an interesting twist to it. But just thinking of playing a new campaign, we're always thinking about new campaigns and new settings. Like, I could just be this decadent, colorful, flamboyant character, and just having this drama and these scenarios. We're just getting into trouble, being knavish rogues.
Yeah, I think
very compelling.
Like these big city-based adventures, like some of the Three Musketeers kind of feel to it. Lies of Lamora, you're rogues, it's you against the system. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So if that all sounds great to you should check out Brancolonia with 9 days left.
Ooh, nice. And then
our final Kickstarter project is the defense of Procyon 3.
That's a sci-fi thing. I feel my bones.
That seems about right. So like this game kind of captured my imagination because it says the word asymmetrical, but then it's presenting itself as a war game for board gamers. And I think that what they mean by that is it's kind of like a territory control war game. There's some miniatures on there, but there are 2 sides, and each side has like a ground forces. So there's like aliens versus humans, basically. Mm. And so each side has like the ground forces, and they also have their space armadas. And I think they want you to play 2v2, but you could probably just do 1-on-1 if you play both sides. But each of those sides and kind of battlefields have different mechanics, so that the human troops play different than the alien troops, and the human troops play different from the human armada, which is different from the alien armada, which is different from the alien troops. So, like some of those are going to use deck building mechanics. Some of them are going to use bag building mechanics. Some of them are going to be hand management. Some of them are going to be like tableau construction or whatever. So having these very, very different mechanics all in one game is a thing that I tend to love anyway. And then also having a game that kind of plays through a conflict at different scales simultaneously is also really intriguing to me. So, this seems like a very interesting, ambitious project, but it seems like it's coming from a veteran Euro game designer. So I think that it might be the kind of product that will have something for most people. So you might find that you like one of the factions, but not another. But it just seems really intriguing because there's so many interesting levers to grab onto to try to engage with the game. So I'm very interested.
Cool. How many days left?
That is 10 days left, ending on Monday, May 11th.
Okie dokie. Well, folks, that was all of our Kickstarters. We are done with the Kickstarter Queen, and I am sad to say that is it for us today here on Friday. But guys, we have a lot more shows on Gen Con throughout the week. So Mondays, 6 p.m., come and hang out with the Brothers Murphs. They play board games. Wednesdays, we wake up 9 a.m. with the Minis with Murphs. So you go to sleep and then you wake up with the Murphs. So it's great. And then right after them is on Wednesday, 11 a.m., this game gets dicey, where 2 players or 2 people go ahead and choose a game. Players. So 2 players choose a game and experiment and play with it online with chat. 4 p.m. Wednesdays, we have Fireside with Peter Atkinson, where he tells us all and invites some friends over to tell us about the behind the scenes of D&D. 6:30, we also have Westgate Irregulars, which is where we put a bunch of writers and tell them play a game, a fantasy role-playing game, in fact. And of course, Fridays, we do have a TableTakes with us. And, usually when we can, we have guests come over after this show to do Gen conversations. And you can stick around for that. But today, we're just doing TableTakes. But, we like you being here and all that stuff. But all we ask is to remember to follow, to subscribe, turn on those notifications via you can, if you miss our streams out here on Gen Con TV on Twitch, you can always catch them 24 hours later on YouTube, and also the podcast for Fireside, so you can listen to those sweet voices talking about behind the scenes. Well, thank you guys all for joining us. I am Bonsai. I have Christian, Emma, Derek. Thank you all for joining, and thank you guys in chat as well for hanging out. You guys have a lovely, lovely May Day. See you later, folks. Bye.